Hello there, this is Gerrit from Heisenware, and in today's video we're going to have a look at our data grid in combination with a relational database table, in this case from our internal Postgres. So what we want to do, what we want to achieve is we want to take a data grid. I want to create, read, update, and delete entries or rows from that table that we have. And to start, I'm going to show you the table that we have. It's called maintenance tasks. It has a machine name, a description, a Boolean for requires downtime, estimated minutes for that task, and a status, which is a string. And the table is already defined. And there's also already data in that table. I'm going to show you with the getTable data function, which is basically our read function in the CRUD. It's the R. So there's our data. It has a machine name, some kind of description for the task, a Boolean value for the required downtime, and so on and so forth. And in order to visualize that data in a data grid, I will just pick it from our display widgets, put it here, do it full width, and then increase the size a bit, and then just drag and drop the data onto the data grid. There you go. Because the data grid is easier to show on a bigger screen, we're going to use the laptop or the monitor view for that video. So here's our data. And so far so good. We will go into that later. And now, first of all, we need to define our backend logic in order to do these CRUD operations on the data grid. So what we have is the R, the read already. What we also need is the C, the create, which is in our case the add row. Then the U, the update is here. There's update row. There's also change row, but this is something you can ignore. So you want to use update row, and you want delete row, not delete table. Can't find delete row currently. There it is. Delete. So, and let's configure these functions. Just drag and drop the table name into all of these. As you can see, the add row expects some data, the data to add, and this is going to come from the data grid. This is why we're going to connect the data grid here and say on insert property. So when someone is adding or inserting a row into the data grid, we want to receive the event in our backend in the add row function and just add the row. And we're going to do the same with the update. And here we pick the onChange property. And as you can see, the delete row only expects the ID of an entry. It doesn't need any other data. However, it works the same way. And you just pick the onDelete property from the data grid. So, and to make it work, we just connect all inputs with the corresponding triggers, which makes the function execute whenever there is a new input coming from that data grid. There you go. And last but not least, we configure the read. So when do we want to read? We want to read once on reload, for example. So whenever someone is accessing the app or reloading the page. Plus, we're going to take all the outputs from our other functions and connect them to the getTable data function, which makes it execute whenever we delete, update, or add a row. Now that we are done with our logic, that's really all that you need. Just these four functions. We can continue to work on the data grid itself. So I'm going to open the settings here and let me do it like this, so it's a bit easier to see, and I'm going to hide this one, and we can even make it bigger. So what we want, first of all, is configure the content. So there's all these fields available, and we can add labels if we want. So if machine name, for example, is too long, we can change it to machine. Requires downtime is also quite long. So I just add another label here. As you can see, the data grid will automatically know which kind of data it is. So it picks the right editor widget already for you. We stick to the checkbox here. Estimated minutes is fine. Status is so far a text. So yes, that's correct. It's a string. However, we could change it to a dropdown because there's just 3 status. So there's open, there's in progress, and there is resolved. So this way, when we later edit or update a row inside the data grid, we will have a dropdown appearing, and we can pick from these options in the dropdown. So the ID is something which is hidden, which is fine, but each of these rows has an ID which is automatically added for you. Visibility of the created add timestamp can be changed, and the same goes for the updated add timestamp. So whenever we add or we update a row, this timestamp is automatically put for you. Let's continue with the look and feel options. And here it's going to become very interesting. So if we could increase the label size, for example, increase it a bit like this, but also the content of the data grid could be increased in size. So you see the font is basically bigger. You can do a lot of configuration here when it comes to how it looks like, basically. So I don't know, alternate row colors can be enabled or disabled. The vertical lines can be enabled and disabled. But I'm going to leave it as it is. And then what we want is we want different settings or things to be allowed on it. So we want to allow adding. So the plus appears here. We want to allow updating. The update icon appears, and we want to allow deleting. The trash icon appears next to a row. And the editing mode will be, let's pick form or pop-up. I like pop-up, so which means a pop-up is shown. I'll show you. So this is the pop-up which comes up when we click edit. When we would pick, for example, row, it's a bit different. So then you can edit directly in the row. However, I prefer having the form here. So we like to allow, or we like to make more configurations. We like to allow searching. So then a search bar appears here. We like to allow grouping. So then we can later group by column. And this is now German, but in the deployed app, it will all be English, no worries. And what else do we want? We want header filtering. Maybe we allow a CSV and Excel export. So just quick refresh on the app builder will help to let these icons appear. So these are the icons that let you export Excel and CSV files. And as you can see, this is way more than a regular data grid. This is a table with lots of features and lots of functionality built in for you. Okay, so let's zoom back to our functions, and I'm going to show you what happens, for example, when I add a row. So let's start with adding a row inside the test mode. So let's start the test mode. I click new column, machine, let's call it CNC milling 2. There's already CNC milling, but let's pick number 2. And the description is oil on the floor. Requires downtime, probably not. Estimated minutes 20. And the status is open. And I save. And it's added here at the very at the very bottom of our data grid. And what's even more interesting is to have a quick look into our add row function. So you see the data that we have added. It was added, and the get table data was triggered again by the new entry. So this is how it looks like for add row. For update row, it's similar, obviously. So let's pick the laser cutter here and just say estimated minutes is 120 instead of 60, and it's resolved, for example, and save. And here you go. The update row function only receives the data which was actually updated, plus the ID of that row. So everything is handled automatically for you. And last but not least, let's delete a row. For example, the welding robot update firmware task here. Let's delete this one. So it's gone. So this function, the delete function, will only receive the ID to be deleted, and it's outputting a true if it was successful. That's all of the logic. You could add obviously toast widgets here, so to show a little message when something was deleted to the user, etc. But we're not doing this in this video. What we're going to do now is we're going to deploy and have a look at the actual app and the data grid. So see, now it's everything in English, and we can now work with this data. I first of all show you what the grouping is. So you can drag and drop a column like this onto the grouping area, and then it's all grouped by machine. And each machine has like a little unfoldable or a little icon here to unfold. You can also group by status, for example. Yeah, so you have all the tasks by its status grouped. Obviously, you can sort like this. You could also filter and just filter for the CNC milling tasks and delete from here. What else? So there's add row here. So we did it already. CNC milling 2. Again, oil on the floor. I'm not too creative today. This time it requires downtime, 30 minutes, and it's open. And we're going to add this one. So you see, there are our 2 tasks for the CNC milling 2 machine, both open. I can also show you how it looks like when we go from open to in progress. There you go, it's updated. And also you can easily download all tasks as an Excel file or all tasks as a CSV file directly from here, all inside the data grid. And last but not least, also use search, for example, or CNC milling, or if you want to identify every task where, for example, oil is playing a role, as you can see. Yeah, it works fine. This is our data grid. I hope you like it, and I'm sure you will build great things using the data grid. See you next time. Bye-bye.